So, welcome back to Thriving Together Life at the Bradley. Here we are today. I'm your host, Shelby Johnstone, and I'm actually the Community Outreach and Brand Awareness Manager here at the Bradley. And I have the privilege of speaking with one of our really inspiring residents, Hugh Fraser. Hugh has been living in the Bradley a couple months now, and through conversation, I've learned that he was the founder of the Fraser Recovery Program and has been doing some really valuable, meaningful work with youth. So I'm super excited to talk to you today and hear about your program and your life in general, and welcome.
Thank you very much. As a little bit of background, I always started as a teacher, okay? And I worked in a college. And I was in charge of admissions one year, and I used to admit students that I felt were bright, and they all had a future. But that was not to happen, okay? And I noticed that they were all failing their courses, and according to government law, it was my job to expel them. And I heard a counselor in the States say one day, he said, if you're going to kick a kid out, kick him into something good. It made no sense that these kids were failing, because I thought they were all very bright. And I did a little bit of research, and I felt that they were majoring in partying, okay? The weekends they were drunk and they were stoned, and this was their lifestyle. And I did some more research, and I found that they were heavy into drugs and heavy into alcohol, okay? And it made no sense. And I went to the campus director, and I asked him, do I have your permission to go away and study a little bit about addiction services, okay? So I went to Minnesota, and I came back, and there were 8. I picked 8 that I was about to expel. Well, lo and behold, I was not very popular, okay? But I made a deal with them. You follow me, and I may let you back. So they said, what kind of a deal is it? Well, now, you're going to be on probation, but you must attend all your classes. Do not be late. You will be penalized, okay? If you miss a class, it's only because there's a death in the family, your own. And whoa. Fraser, you can't do that to us. Well, then you want back, don't you?
I feel like this, is such a progressive model in an education system. How did you have a sense that this was the right thing to do?
Their futures depended on me. If I threw them out, where were they going to go? And this fellow said, if you're going to kick a kid out, kick him into something good. So I felt an obligation to create something good. And I founded the Fraser Recovery Program, a nonprofit charitable organization dealing with drugs and alcohol problems, okay? And I was working with them in the city. They had to attend classes. They had to attend study hall. And every Tuesday and Thursday, I would meet them, and on the weekend, and we'd talk about how come you're doing what you're doing to yourselves, okay? And although I would like to say that I was somewhat excited about their improvement, but it wasn't enough. And because of the weekends.
So you'd find that they would be engaged with you during the time, and then they just revert back to the same behaviors. And
then the parties on Friday night and whatever.
So how did you reconcile this or move forward with it?
I had a friend who was a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he owned a camp in the woods, 5 kilometers off the road, and fishing and hunting, and we were good friends. So I said to Art, I said, do you mind if I bring them up with me? So I bought 4 or 5 of them up, and they loved it. No electricity, no cell phones, no television, and there they were. And I couldn't believe the change in them. And one day, a young man who's still sober today said to me, let's go for a walk. And he's halfway down the path, he stopped and he said, don't laugh at me, but I want to tell you something. This place is doing exactly what alcohol and drugs did.
Oh, wow.
And whoa, what do you mean by that? He said, my whole spirit, my whole outlook. He said, I see that mountain over there. I never saw it before. I see those flowers. I never saw those flowers before, except in my mind when I was stoned, okay? And that gave me an idea. There we go.
So do you think it was the healing power of nature?
Definitely. And they were in the woods, and it was amazing how they opened up. So I questioned a few of the teachers who had them in class. And they all knew that they were coming to class stoned. And one teacher said to me, I just have no use for them. And I thought, there's a kid that is what I would consider sick. What do you do when he has a toothache? You send him to a dentist. What do you do when you have a stomach ache? You send him to the nurse. What do you do with a kid that's walking around with a knife in his pocket? What do you do with a kid? And they all had answers. And what do you do with a kid that says, I'm addicted to drugs? Kick him out. He's a piece of trash. And we bonded together. And those 8 are now working in Ottawa, working with the federal government.
Wow, that's incredible.
So what do we do with a kid? These are kids who are worthwhile, who have a dream. And these are all the ones that I was kicking them out. They're all passing now. And they felt good with themselves. One fellow said, their self-esteem is nothing. It amounts to nothing. But there was a guy said, they look for attention in others. So what do you do with a boy who's diagnosed as being an addict, told he's going to amount to nothing but a garbage can? There's no future for him in life. What in the name of God are we doing in the classroom? So I did more and more research, and these kids needed to get away from the city. And as a result, we started looking for a camp of our own. I had $3,000 to spend. Camps were $50,000 and $60,000 and up. I wanted a camp in the worst way. And I came back into the city, and there was a lady that I was told might be able to help me out. And I met her. And we talked for an hour and a half, and she said, maybe I can give you a hand. Her name was Hazel. And she passed me an envelope. It was sealed. My name was on it. In other words, there was something in there. She prepared it before I got there. She said there are 2 checks in there. One is to be cashed right away, and the next one, cash it in a week's time. If you cash it before, it's going to bounce. I was with those kids. We opened the envelope. One check was for $25,000, and the other check was for $25,000.
Wow. What did you, I mean, you must have been blown away.
Blown away.
I mean, I feel almost emotional just hearing that because it, you know, it speaks to the goodness of humans, right? Somebody willing to listen and to give your program a chance. That must have been huge.
And the impact that had on the youth, that a woman who was 86 years of age would donate that amount of money so that they might be able to take advantage of the wilderness and of anything that we had to offer. So the Fraser Recovery Program, I say, started there. And the 8 students started helping the new student coming in. One girl said to me, "I'm so happy, Mr. Fraser, to go home with my report card. I feel good."
Wow.
And I said, "What did you do before?" "I would try to hide it from my parents. I feel good with myself."
Wow.
And it was that feeling of good, that feeling of accomplishment, that feeling of I can do something with my life. And they fought addiction. Every day was a challenge. But we used it's mentioned in AA, one day at a time. They'd get up in the morning, and there were 5 steps, as far as I was concerned, in the recovery program, because these kids had to recover from what they had lost. Some were using at 12 years of age. Some only started, but they were using to an extent that it was crazy, okay?
Yeah.
So that the picking up of a drug, they get a buzz. Going looking for it is misusing. And now all of a sudden, they're feeling good with themselves and they're working harder to do something with themselves. And today, 2 of them have master's degree. One is working on a PhD. And strangely enough, you talk about the spirituality of the program. He lives approximately 35 miles south of here. I will be going to visit him next weekend because he has become a priest.
Wow. Those are some accomplishments.
So there you get it. There you get it. Okay.
Would you say, I just wanted to touch on, you mentioned about, some of these kids feeling badly about themselves, feeling badly about their grades and their report cards. And I was just wondering if the idea or the feeling of shame seemed to be a recurrent, maybe even somewhat of a root cause for some of the pain of these children that may have turned to drugs. Something that you might have experienced, or
They felt shame. They felt guilty. But I instilled in them, there's no shame in being an addict. The only shame is not doing anything about it. and they grasp that they're doing something about their sickness. In other words, if they had cancer, they would go and they would take a medication. If they had any other type of sickness, they would go. And here they had the disease of addiction. And the disease of addiction it's a disease, and it's it's entire. It affects the mind, body, and soul.
Yeah, I can see, you come from a real place of compassion, and I'm wondering if you had any advice for, say, parents and teachers of children who may be kind of those vulnerable years before they'd made the decision to turn maybe to substance. Do you have any advice for them from what you've learned from your experiences?
We, once a week at the Fraser Recovery Program, we put on a program for parents. And parents have to get close to their children, try to get close, learn how to cope with it, the disease. And it's a hell of a job. But it can be done. And the more they work together, the more they understand, and the more that they start to feel the accomplishments of their youth, of the kids. I witnessed parents who hate their kids, who come to me and say, there was one an example. This mother came to me and said, Mr. Fraser, I got a question for you. Why do you deal with the little slut? That is from a parent.
That's so sad.
And I said to myself, man, now we just have to work. So on staff, we have addiction counselors. On staff, we have really a qualified professional staff. So we all work together. And recovery starts to happen. And once you get close to the kids, I see you're holding in your hand a picture of the camp. I dare anyone to go up and do any damage to that. That's the kids own it.
Oh, so they feel very protective.
They feel very protected.
And safe, probably, right?
And
like
safe.
You created a safe zone where maybe they never had it before.
I've always said I've solved more problems in a fishing boat than I have in the office.
I can understand that. I live in a forest myself, up a big long hill, and I really, feel the healing elements of nature, and just watching the cycles of things, and it's quiet. You can hear yourself think, and would you think that more nature should be integrated into the school system?
Yes, by qualified people. They have to be qualified. For example, there's no love any greater than a one drunk with another. A lot of the counselors at my office, they also suffer from the problem. But no one ever realizes how you suffer. it's unbelievable. They feel useless. They feel they're going absolutely nowhere. And the only damn way they can feel good with themselves is to take a pill, okay? And that happens every day. In the schools, I see kids doing drugs, and the only reason they're doing drugs is that their sister gave it to them or their brother gave it to them, because that's the only way they can feel good. And then they get into trouble. I like to say that addiction is like a ladder. You got the 10th step, the 9th step, and the more they use, the lower they go. And we also hear they have to hit their bottom. They don't have to hit their bottom, no.
This is a myth that they need to. You think changes can be made, or
we raise the bottom, okay? So addiction among the youth is a very serious matter, and not enough is being done for them. For example, if you have a son in Canada right now who is in grade 10 and he's hooked on drugs, where in the name of God do you send him?
And that's a really good question. You know, what would you propose? What would you tell that grade 10 child who's on the cusp of that? Where would they go? Who would they call?
I'm dumbfounded. But in the Fraser Recovery Program, we have the camp. And everything that we do, they come to us on the weekends. They're fed. No problem with their transportation. Their clothes in some cases.
Their basic needs, or
there's no charge. I have managed to get enough money. For example, last year, I would say that my budget was $600,000.
Wow, that's a huge jump from your $3,000 roots.
And it all came from different individuals.
Amazing.
So I would hope that if anyone is listening to me today, they would start a program like this. It has to be done. And you don't need money. You can start it just by talking to kids.
Sounds like you just needed the vision and the inspiration to make a difference.
And when you help one, and if you've helped one, you've done a really good job. And that 1 becomes 2, and 2 becomes 4, and 4 becomes 8. And they help one another. And what I say to them, there's pretty much 5 steps to a recovery program, and it costs absolutely nothing, okay? You wake up in the morning and you say, I'm not going to use today. 2, you talk to somebody that's doing exactly the same thing. 3, you talk to someone who's got long-term sobriety. Number 4, you deal with your shit. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
And the last one is you help somebody else. So a kid could phone me. I'm doing it now. I'm doing it now.
Even so you're living here in independent living, retirement, and you're still part of the program?
I'm not part of the program. I retired from the program because I'm 82,
Fair.
going on 26, okay? But I'm dealing with someone right now. He can't afford to go to this organization because we are a day program. But I'm saying to him, when you get up tomorrow morning, don't use.
So So there's you're still feeling that sense of mentorship and caring and reaching out to individuals who aren't necessarily part of the program.
At this place here, you got every second Thursday, you bring over the grade 9s.
Mm-hmm.
Man, oh man, that's such a useful program, okay?
Yeah, that is.
And I've been talking to kids, and kids talk to, and they trust, you know? So the moral of the story is we have to help the kids.
I was wondering, all of this is so inspiring to me. And I think that, people struggle at all ages and all demographics. And I'm wondering about this program. What would you think it would work for adults, seniors? Could you see it expanding to different ages?
Yeah.
Could you see maybe some of the youth that you've helped helping a senior, for instance, or an adult, that kind of thing? What's next?
It's amazing how many parents have sobered up because their kids are sobering up.
Right.
I'm looking at my watch. We've only got 15 minutes, but it's amazing what goes on.
Mm.
The child gets better, and then the father gets better. We've had cases where they'll call me and say, Fraser, what do I do? They call me Fraser. Fraser, what do I do? It's my birthday. And I say, look, you stay away from slippery people, stay away from slippery places. But home is slippery, Mr. Fraser, and you don't understand, and one is crying. So I said, what are you crying for? And they say, Mommy just gave me a bag of cocaine. Mm. And if I don't snort it, Mommy's going to get angry because I don't appreciate their gift. I say, go and flush it down the toilet and put the blame on me. Now, you can imagine what that girl is going to wind up being. I told you, sitting out there, I dealt with a girl that spent 2 years in prison. 2 years. I went with a psychologist. I went every weekend to see her and speak to her about the necessity of staying sober. She has a son. She has her own business. She lives in Winnipeg. And I'm going to visit her. And she's 15 years sober. And her son doesn't use. There it is. So it's the power to help one kid and have that one kid be an influence on others, whether it be an uncle or whether it be a parent, okay? But you got to have the example set, okay?
Okay. Well, I could honestly talk to you about this all day. This has been really, really incredible. And maybe we can do a part 2 at some point or 3. I think you're doing really valuable work. And as a parent, I would like to thank you for that, because I think every time somebody steps out to care about other people in the world, it creates a ripple effect. And so I think, even my children maybe haven't met you, although you met my daughter this morning, but, they feel it. They feel it on some level, and it just helps to make the world a kinder place. So as we wrap up, is there anything else that you'd want to say?
If you were to find out that your son is using drugs, I'm willing to bet, and I don't even know you, that you would attempt to keep it a secret. I don't want to tell my parents. I don't want to let Grandpa know. And God forbid I tell my fellow co-workers. So it's become a big secret.
Stigma, right?
And the stigma is there.
Them to be judged.
But my God, the examples are there. For example, if you read that book, It tells you what the kids have gotten out of it, okay? And the examples that they set, okay? We have to break that. But I've had teachers say, yeah, I know he's in my class and I know he's stoned, but I'm not doing anything about it. I'm paid to teach. I'm sorry, but you're just helping that kid die.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is there a way, speaking of the book, is there a place that people can get this book and read the stories in it, or?
I would have to phone the office and see if we can't print them. Feel free to, anybody can phone me anytime. And I'd be more than happy to show how you set a program that up, okay?
Well, that sounds great. And the website, obviously, too, for the Fraser program, people can go to that and check that out. And then it outlines kind of what it is and the background behind it and everything like that. Well, I guess we've come to the end of our time today, but it was really nice talking to you, Hugh. Thank you so much for all you've done, and it's been great to have you here living at the Bradley. I know you're also very caring to the other residents, and they love having you here, so you've been a great addition. Just
people ask me, what are you doing here? Because I'm not all there.
Okay. Thanks for joining us today on Thriving Together, Life at the Bradley. I'm your host, Shelby Johnstone, and we'll see you next time.